They fined me $500 for 3 tiny oil stains. Stains so small, I had to get down on my hands and knees just to confirm they were even there. And that's the moment I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control. It was a Monday morning. Nothing unusual. I had my coffee in one hand, keys in the other, already thinking about the long week ahead. And then I saw it. This bright orange notice taped right across my garage door like some kind of warning label. Not even in an envelope, just out there for the whole world to see. Violation notice. You know that feeling when your stomach drops just a little, like something's off, but you're not sure how bad yet? Yeah, that. I pulled it off, read the first line, and honestly, I laughed. $500. For unsightly driveway contamination caused by automotive fluid leakage. I actually looked around like, is this a joke? Am I being pranked right now? Because my driveway. I mean, it's not showroom perfect, sure, but it's clean. I take care of my place. Always have. So I walked over to my car, this old 2009 Civic that's been with me longer than most people in my life, and I started looking, really looking. And yeah, eventually I found them. 3 little spots. Not puddles. Not stains you'd notice walking by. I'm talking about marks the size of a coin, faint, faded, like something that happened weeks ago and already gave up trying to exist. I remember just sitting back on my heels in the driveway thinking, this can't be real. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I called the number on the notice. A woman picked up, calm, almost too calm, like she'd had this conversation 100 times already. Brookstone Residential Association, this is Linda speaking. I said, yeah, hi. I just got a violation notice about oil stains on my driveway, and I think there's been some kind of mistake. There was a pause, just long enough to feel intentional. Property address? I gave it to her. More typing. More silence. Then she comes back, voice completely flat. No mistake, sir. Your property has been documented as non-compliant with community aesthetic standards. That phrase, aesthetic standards, she said it like it meant something sacred. I tried to keep it light. Ma'am, with all due respect, I had to crouch down to even see what you're talking about. Another pause. Then, like she was reading straight off a script, all visible exterior surfaces must be maintained in a clean and visually acceptable condition. Automotive fluid stains, regardless of size, are considered a violation. That's when I felt it, that shift from confusion to irritation. I said, okay, but here's the thing. I'm not part of your HOA. Silence again. This time shorter. You are located adjacent to Brookstone Development, correct? Yeah, my house has been here since before that entire neighborhood even existed. Well, she said, and I swear I could hear the smile in her voice. Your driveway is visible from community roadways, which places it under our extended visual compliance jurisdiction. I actually pulled the phone away and looked at it for a second, like maybe I misheard that. Extended what? It's outlined in our community guidelines. Can you send me that? They are publicly available to residents. I'm not a resident. Another pause, then. Is there anything else I can assist you with today? And just like that, she was done. I hung up, still standing there in my driveway, holding this ridiculous notice, and I remember thinking, this isn't about cleanliness. This is about someone deciding they get to tell me what to do with my own property. And yeah, that didn't sit right. Not even a little. That afternoon, I took a walk. Not a casual walk. Not the kind where you clear your head or listen to music. No, this was different. This was the kind of walk where you start noticing things. I crossed into Brookstone. Nice place, I'll give them that. Clean streets, trimmed hedges, matching mailboxes, everything looked controlled. Like someone had pressed a reset button on imperfection. But when you slow down, when you actually look, you start seeing cracks. Literally. Sidewalk slabs pushed up by tree roots. Just enough to trip someone if they weren't paying attention. Dark streaks running from storm drains where water had pooled and dried over and over again. Tire marks from construction trucks, because half the neighborhood was still being renovated, despite all those standards. I kept walking, started taking pictures, not in a sneaky way, just casually, like someone documenting a place they'd never seen before. And the more I looked, the more I realized something. Their perfect neighborhood wasn't perfect at all. It just depended on where you chose to look. There was this one driveway, a few houses down from the entrance, where you could clearly see oil stains, way worse than mine. Fresh, dark, obvious. No notice taped to their garage. No bright orange warning. I stopped there for a second, just staring at it, and that's when the idea first started forming. Not fully. Not yet. Just a quiet little thought in the back of my head. Keep walking. I made my way toward the main entrance road, the one everyone uses, residents, delivery trucks, maintenance crews, all of it. And that's where things got interesting. Because that road, it was worn. Not falling apart, not dramatic, but worn in a way that only shows up over time. Fine cracks branching out like veins, patches where repairs had been done and redone, slight dips where water probably collected during rain. Normal stuff, the kind of where you'd expect anywhere. But suddenly, I wasn't looking at it as normal anymore. I was looking at it through their lens, through aesthetic standards, through visual compliance. And let me tell you, by their own logic, that road was a violation waiting to happen. I stood there for a while, just taking it in, cars passing, people walking dogs, everything feeling calm on the surface, and underneath it, all these tiny imperfections nobody was talking about. And that quiet little thought in my head, it got louder. By the time I walked back home, I wasn't annoyed anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was focused, because if they wanted to play this game, then maybe it was time someone played it better. By Tuesday morning, I had a plan, not a reckless one, not the kind driven by anger, but something quieter, more deliberate, the kind of plan that builds itself piece by piece until suddenly it's not a thought anymore. It's a direction. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, coffee going cold next to me, and started digging, not into the HOA, not yet into the city. Because here's the thing people forget. HOAs love to act like they're the highest authority on earth, like their rules sit above everything else, but they don't. At the end of the day, there's always something above them. City codes, public works regulations, maintenance requirements. And once I started reading, really reading, it didn't take long before I found something interesting. Actually, not just interesting, useful. See, in my city, property owners, whether individuals or associations, are responsible for maintaining any adjacent infrastructure tied to their development, sidewalks, curbs, and in the case of private communities, roads. Not just keeping them drivable, but keeping them safe. And here's the key part, in acceptable condition. That phrase again. Different system, same idea. Acceptable condition. I leaned back in my chair, just staring at that line for a second, letting it settle in, because now the picture was starting to come together. Those cracks I saw, those worn patches, those drainage stains, they weren't just normal wear. They were potential violations. Not HOA violations. City violations. And unlike a $500 warning notice taped to a garage door, city violations don't ask nicely. I went back through the photos I'd taken the day before, slower this time, zooming in, organizing them, categorizing everything like I was building a case. Cracked sidewalk near Lot 12. Pooling water stains at the storm drain on Alder Street. Tire residue and fluid marks near ongoing construction. And then the main road. That one got its own folder. Because the more I looked at it, the more obvious it became. Those weren't just surface cracks. Some of them had depth, uneven edges, early signs of structural fatigue, the kind of thing that doesn't fix itself. I didn't rush. That's important. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. Not really. It was about leverage. And leverage only works if you're precise. By Wednesday morning, I had everything ready. Photos labeled. Notes organized. Relevant sections of city code highlighted. I even rewrote my complaint 3 times, not to make it sound emotional, but to strip emotion out of it completely. No anger. No accusations. Just facts. Clear, calm, undeniable. I submitted it to the city's Public Works Department a little after 9 a.m. And then, I waited. Now, here's the part nobody tells you about waiting. It's not passive. It looks passive, but inside, your mind keeps replaying everything. Did I miss something? Did I overdo it? Is this even going to matter? I went about my day, ran errands, answered emails, tried to stay busy, but every time my phone buzzed, I felt that little spike of anticipation. Nothing came through Wednesday. Thursday morning, though, that was different. I was out front, rinsing off my driveway. Yeah, I hadn't even fixed the stains yet, partly out of principle, partly because now they felt symbolic when I saw a white city truck roll slowly into Brookstone. You ever see something and just know that's connected to you? That was one of those moments. I didn't follow it right away. I gave it a few minutes, then grabbed my keys and drove over, casual, like I had somewhere else to be. The truck was parked near the main entrance road, and there was a guy in a reflective vest walking along the pavement, clipboard in hand, stopping every few feet, crouching down, inspecting, taking pictures, lots of pictures. I stayed in my car at first, just watching, and I could feel it, this strange mix of satisfaction and tension building at the same time. Because once something like this starts, you don't control how far it goes. I eventually stepped out, walked up like any curious neighbor would. "Morning," I said. He nodded. "Morning. Everything all right?" He gave a small shrug, the kind that says not really, but I'm not here to chat about it. Just doing an inspection. I glanced down at the road. "Find anything interesting?" He looked at me for a second, like he was deciding how much to say. Then, "There are some concerns." That was it. He didn't elaborate, didn't need to. Because I already knew. I drove back home after that, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I smiled. Not a big, dramatic smile, just a quiet one. Because the wheel had started turning, and it wasn't stopping. Friday morning, that's when everything changed. I woke up to noise, not loud, but different, the kind of low, constant hum that doesn't belong in a quiet neighborhood. I stepped outside, coffee in hand, and looked toward Brookstone. And there they were. Bright orange cones. Road work ahead signs. 2 more city trucks. And a crew setting up equipment like they planned to be there a while. I actually let out a short laugh. Not because it was funny, but because of how fast it escalated. From invisible cracks to visible disruption. Just like that. I drove over again. This time no hesitation. The entrance road was partially blocked, traffic being redirected, residents slowing down, windows rolling down, people asking questions. What's going on? Is this scheduled? How long is this going to take? No one seemed to have answers. At least not yet. I parked a little further down and walked the rest of the way. And that's when I overheard it. One of the crew guys talking to a resident, mid-conversation, clearly already annoyed. Yeah, it came down as an urgent repair order. Structural concerns. We're just getting started. Structural. That word carries weight. It means this isn't cosmetic anymore. It means money. A lot of it. I kept walking, blending into the small crowd that had started forming. People checking their phones, calling neighbors, trying to piece together what was happening. And then I heard another word. Assessment. Now, if you've ever lived near or inside an HOA, you know exactly what that means. And if you haven't, let me explain it simply. It means everyone pays. Not optional. Not negotiable. Everyone. I didn't need to hear the exact number to understand what was coming, but later that afternoon, I got a pretty good idea. Because the Brookstone Community Facebook group, yeah, that went public real fast. Someone had shared screenshots. Posts were flying. What is this emergency fee? Why are we being charged for road repairs? This is thousands of dollars per household. Thousands. Per household. And suddenly, those 3 tiny oil stains on my driveway didn't seem so important anymore. By early evening, the tone had shifted from confusion to anger. People weren't just asking what happened, they were asking who reported it. And that question, that one hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. I stayed quiet, didn't comment, didn't react, just watched. Because sometimes, the most powerful position you can be in is the one nobody sees. Around 7 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it for a second, already knowing who it was. I let it ring once more, then picked up. "Hello." There was a pause, and then a voice I recognized immediately. But this time it wasn't calm. "This is Linda, from Brookstone." No script, no polished tone, just tension. And underneath it, something else. Pressure. "We need to talk about your violation." I leaned back in my chair, letting a small silence stretch between us. Not to be dramatic, just enough to shift the balance. "I was wondering when you'd call." I was wondering when you'd call. There was a pause on the other end, not the kind from before, not scripted, not controlled. This one felt different, like she was choosing her words carefully now, like the ground under her had shifted and she hadn't quite found her footing again. "This situation with the roads," she started, then stopped, exhaled softly. "It's become more complicated than expected." I didn't say anything right away. Sometimes silence does more work than words ever could. She continued, a little faster this time. "The city has issued a preliminary repair order, and we're currently assessing the scope of the work." "Sounds expensive," I said, calm. almost conversational. Another pause. Yes, she admitted. And there it was, no corporate tone, no policy language, just a person dealing with a problem. For everyone involved. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, looking out through the window at my driveway. Those 3 faint spots still there, barely visible unless you knew where to look. That's tough, I said quietly. And I meant it, at least a little. Because here's the thing nobody talks about. When you push back against the system, you're not just pushing against the people running it. You're pushing against everyone inside it too. And sometimes, they didn't sign up for that fight. Linda's voice came back, more direct now. We believe it would be in everyone's best interest to revisit your violation notice. There it was. Not an apology. Not yet. But close enough. I let a small breath out, slow, steady. Revisit how? We can withdraw the fine, she said, carefully, like each word had to pass through a filter before it reached me. In exchange for what? This time, she didn't hesitate. We would expect you to address the staining issue on your driveway. I almost smiled. Because even now, even with everything happening, they were still trying to frame it like this was equal. Like we were negotiating from the same place. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. Linda, those stains will take me 15 minutes and maybe $20 to clean. Silence. The situation your community is dealing with, I continued, letting the words land slowly. That's not 15 minutes. She didn't argue, didn't interrupt. Because she knew. We both knew. I leaned back again, giving her just enough space to feel the shift. So here's what I'm willing to do, I said. And this time, I wasn't reacting. I was setting terms. You withdraw the fine completely. Yes. And I cut in, not raising my voice, just steady. You provide written confirmation that my property is not under your HOA jurisdiction. That one hit. I could feel it through the phone. The hesitation, the internal calculation. That may require. And, I added, before she could redirect, any future concerns about my property go through city code enforcement, not your aesthetic standards. The line went quiet. Longer this time. Long enough that I stood up and walked to the window again, watching the late afternoon light stretch across the driveway, those little stains catching just enough shadow to exist. Finally, she spoke. If we agree to this, you will resolve the issue on your driveway? There it was again. That need to hold on to something. Anything. I nodded to myself. Yeah, I said. I'll clean it. Another pause. Then, quietly. All right. No script. No legal language. Just all right. And just like that, it was done. The call ended without much else. No formal closing, no polite wrap-up. Just 2 people stepping away from something that had gone further than either of them probably expected. Saturday morning, the construction got louder. Not just cones and signs anymore. Actual work. Sections of the road being cut open. Asphalt peeled back. Crews moving with purpose. You could hear it from my house. That steady grind of machines tearing into something that, a few days ago, nobody thought twice about. I drove past once slow. Not to gloat. Just to see it. Residents standing outside, arms crossed, talking in small groups, some frustrated, some confused, some just tired. A couple of them glanced at me as I passed, and for a second, I wondered if they knew. Not for sure, but suspected. Because communities like that, they talk. They connect dots. And sometimes they land in the right place. I didn't stop. Just kept driving. Because whatever this was, it wasn't something you celebrate out loud. Monday morning, I found an envelope taped to my garage door. Not bright orange this time. Plain white. Neat. Official. I took it inside, opened it at the kitchen counter, same spot I'd been sitting a few days earlier when this all started. The letter was short. Direct. It stated that the violation notice had been withdrawn, effective immediately. It acknowledged that my property did not fall under Brookstone's governing authority. And it confirmed that any future concerns would be directed through appropriate municipal channels. No apology. But it didn't need one. Because this was recognition. And sometimes that's enough. I set the letter down, stood there for a second, just letting everything settle, the past few days, the tension, the choices, how something so small had turned into something not small at all. Then I grabbed the pressure washer from the garage. 15 minutes later, the driveway was clean. Just like that. No drama. No effort. Those 3 little stains gone. And standing there, looking at it, I couldn't help but shake my head a little. Because it was never about the stains. Not really. It was about someone deciding they had the right to draw a line and expecting nobody to question it. And what happens when someone does? I went back inside, put the letter in a drawer, but I didn't delete the photos. Every crack, every stain, every detail. I kept all of it. Not as a threat, not as leverage, at least not actively. Just as a reminder that systems, even polished, well-organized ones, they're only as strong as the people willing to look closely. And maybe, just maybe, think twice before they push someone who has the time to look back. Now here's the part one keep going back to. Was I right? I mean, yeah, technically everything I did stayed within the lines. I didn't lie. I didn't damage anything. I just pointed something out. But those repair costs, those didn't land on Linda. They landed on every homeowner in that neighborhood. Families. People who probably had nothing to do with that notice on my door. So sometimes I wonder, did I prove a point? Or did I just make one? I'd honestly like to hear what you think. Because situations like this, they're never as simple as right or wrong. If you were in my position, would you have let it go? Paid the fine, cleaned the driveway, moved on? Or would you have done exactly what I did and pushed back, knowing it might hit harder than intended? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read more of them than you'd think. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA or any situation where someone tried to overstep like that, share your story too. Because something tells me I'm not the only one who's had to learn this lesson the hard way.